I'd like to welcome Jodhi May, who's playing Una in Blackbird. Hello.
Hello.
I wonder whether I could just start by asking you to tell us a little bit about your character in the play. Tell us who she is and what's happened to her, perhaps.
Una has decided to go and confront a man who she had, who she knew when she was 12, and so she's driven a very long way to confront this man, and realises that he's changed his name and has effectively began a new life in another town, another city. And she's recently seen a photograph in a sort of trade journal and has decided to go and confront him with his past, because in a sense she's realised that he's basically escaped his past, which is something that she hasn't been able to do.
And so the play is this confrontation between the two characters?
Yes, it's a confrontation between two people and what they experience together, and it's a revisiting of that time and the events that they shared.
Can you say a little bit about what attracted you to the project and to doing this piece?
When I first read the script, I just thought it was the most amazing piece of writing. I just thought it was an extraordinary play, and the language was quite remarkable. It read almost like verse in terms of the rhythms and the sort of cadences of the language. It was very economical, but also kind of highly resonant and very sort of eloquent and kind of very potent use of words. And I just thought it was perhaps one of the most kind of powerful and disturbing pieces of writing I'd ever read, really. So I just thought it was quite an extraordinary piece, and that's very rare.
Let's take advantage of the fact that you've just done a dress rehearsal run of the play. How demanding is it to it's 2 hours long, you don't have an interval, you're on stage the whole time, it's highly emotional. How demanding is it? What kind of demands does it make of you, and how do you feel afterwards?
Well, it is, yeah, it's obviously very kind of challenging as an actor, and that's exciting, because it's very kind of concentrated upon two people, and obviously there's no interval. But I think there is so much of a journey for both characters, and there are so many kind of juxtapositions of emotions that they both experience in encountering each other again and confronting each other, that I think it's an incredible challenge as an actor to be able to, I suppose, explore those emotions in depth and in such detail, and it's very exciting to be doing something that's a two-hander in that respect.
What kind of preparation do you do? Do you spend a long time focusing? And I'm thinking actually in two ways, both before a performance or a rehearsal, and also perhaps earlier on in the process. Did you spend much time researching things, or do you just kind of relate to the material spontaneously? How do you work?
Well, there was obviously sort of during the rehearsal process, David Howard, the writer, was with us, and David did a huge amount of very extensive research, and he had a lot of written material with him, which ranged from a few books that had been written on the subject to academic papers and critical writing. So it was something that was very valuable in the sense that we were able to discuss with him the research that he had done, and really, in a sense, I suppose, explore the psychology of the abused and the abuser, if you like, or the ways in which these two characters perceive themselves and the way in which they are perceived by the outside world, because obviously the play is very much about two people who are attempting to reconstruct the identities that have been imposed upon them in many ways, because obviously there's a huge amount that comes into conflict with their own subjective experience, and a huge amount of very conflicting emotions which cannot be easily reconciled or easily processed, I think, for them on a subjective level. And in a sense, the only way that they can do that is through, in the play at least, confronting each other, because so many of the contradictions that lie at the root of their experiences can only really be somehow understood paradoxically by the person who shared that experience. So in a sense it is, I think, about somebody, or at least for Una herself, it's about reclaiming an identity that she hasn't been able to construct, because the kind of chronology, I suppose, of her self-development has been interrupted, and that's set all sorts of things into motion. It's created an experience for her which is an entirely unconventional one, and one which I think for her is very difficult to understand and articulate. So the research was helpful in that extent, in terms of opening up the gap between the way that the two characters perceive themselves and the way that the outside world perceives them.
And as you say, there's a question about what this relationship was, whether it was an abusive relationship or whether it was a love relationship. Did you find in the course of rehearsal, as an actor, you sided with Una? Did you find that you became partisan and you thought that the male character, Ray, was an abuser? Did that come into play? I
think for the whole point, I think, for the character of Una is that she's constantly having to grapple with certain things that she may experience as being the truth, and other things which she may experience as being deceptive. So she is somebody who is constantly trying to excavate and unearth, and really, for her, that's an enormous struggle. I think that what's very important is that there is a kind of ambiguity, is that at moments, what's interesting about the characters that David Harrow has created, at moments one is a victim and the other is a perpetrator of a crime, and at another moment that can be completely subverted, and it's completely the other way around, and Ray seems to be almost a victim, and Una can in some ways be perceived as somebody who's absolutely not a victim. And I think Una, in a sense, is continually attempting to describe events as she experienced them, and in many ways she has behaved in a way that is absolutely very rebellious, and that is not in a way consistent with the idea of victimhood. So I think the notion of those concepts is something that she is continually struggling with.
These themes that you talk about have obviously been rigorously developed with yourself and Roger Allen, who plays Ray, and with Peter Stein, the director. Could you say a little bit about what Peter's like, what it's like working with him? Does he obviously he's a German director from a slightly different tradition from ours. Is that something that you notice?
I mean, Peter's an extraordinary director to work with. He's absolutely incredible. And I think what is very exciting with this play is that he's brought a completely different sensibility to it, and he's much more bold and passionate and in terms of his interpretation, I think, than probably an English sensibility would allow. And I think that endows the characters with a kind of visceral quality which is incredibly real and it really reflects the kind of heightened realism of David Harrow's writing. And you really do see two people who are kind of sweating and breathing and suffering and enjoying but living in every sense of the word on stage, and there is nothing inhibited in that. So I think that he has an extraordinary emotional sensibility for a text, and really in terms of how to how to bring life into something which on the page, I wouldn't have immediately seen it in such kind of dynamic terms, and I think he's in that respect a rather extraordinary director.
And so far you've obviously worked with a number of interesting directors, and you've also done some film work as well. Could you say a little bit about the differences as an actor working in film and working in theatre, and whether your approach changes or your process changes?
Well, I think theatre's a completely different process in the sense that it's a much more physical process, and obviously you don't have the sort of disjointed quality of filming where you can be filming completely out of chronological order. So in a sense it feels much more organic possibly to sort of evolve from the beginning of the play to the end, and that's hugely enjoyable. And obviously you have the fantastic relationship of having an audience, which is something that is hugely kind of exhilarating as an actor to experience, and film is entirely different, but equally as challenging and as exciting in the sense that it allows for so many details and very kind of microscopic detail as an actor to be able to convey, and what's very exciting, I suppose, is being able to move between the two, because that's the most kind of challenging and demanding way to work as an actor, I think.
Jodhi May, thank you very much.
Thank you.